Welcome everyone to a new YouTube video. This is your boy High Marshal Edwin Blackflame at your service, and today is a bit of a kind of somewhat of a mini vlog. Today what we have is an army showcase. I had a good friend and a good subscriber of the channel named Templar, if I'm remembering correctly. He asked for an army showcase, and I was like, I'm more than happy to oblige. So let us begin with the usual chaff. Let's get some of the base units out here. Have right here is my squad, my 10-man squad of intercessors with their beautiful sergeant over there just yelling orders. It's a 10-man intercessor squad. Most Space Marine armies would have just a 10-man laying around, and I do have another squad of assault intercessors, which are pretty good for sticky objectives and that, but this is for some like backline clearing. These are like my shooty units, which is, I don't have that many because mainly I run a full melee list, but I'm pretty proud of them. They're your standard typical backline of the battlefield that are shooty. Depending on which armor I put on them, they're generally either going to be my heavy intercessors or my regular intercessors, and with a bit of a work, they even can become my assault intercessors, and they're pretty good for sticky objectives, just in case someone tries to take my home objective. And now next in line, what we have here is going to be this entire brick of my, or these fuckers used to be called, my Crusader squad block. I have a 20-man here, which should be 8 neophytes, 10 initiates, 1 sword brother to lead the entire squad. I have kind of, these are my battle line. These are like the big blob that basically advances alongside the board very slowly. They're charging as quick as they can, and they're basically mainly a distraction for my big units, so they can just kind of, these are like the focus early on. They do a lot of work in themselves. If they kind of come in contact with an enemy, you got 20-man, mostly chain swords, but I have 4 initiates that have the power fist, and they do a lot of damage. Now, especially depending on the points, generally I have them led by the hero of Hell's Reach himself, Grimaldus. Now, this is probably one of my favorite minis ever to paint. Also one of my favorite in the lore, and like Hell's Reach is such a great novel that I really just kind of like hold a lot of reverence to this man here. He is generally what got me into getting some Black Templar minis, because I just love them. And now we move on. Oh, actually, I do have a couple of spare units here that are generally, depending on the army that I'm fighting or the game that I'm playing, sometimes I swap out Grimaldus because he's pretty good, but sometimes if I'm running a 1,000-point game, I can't get Grimaldus and Hellbreak at the same time. I have them run alongside the Judicia. Now, this model is pretty sick also. It was a kit bash from the captain that came with the starter edition of 9th edition. I kit bashed the captain into a Judiciary because I had the Sword of Judgment laying around on the upgrade sprue. Also gave him that, instead of his, like, that time thing that he holds, I just gave him a skull to make him more Black Templar-ish. And, yeah. He's pretty good too. He has fight first, so sometimes whenever I advance and charge and it's the other opponent's turn, I get to fight. And then whenever this blob of units fights first with almost 80, it's like 5 attacks each on the sword chains. And so, yeah, they're pretty nasty. But aside from that, let us go into, let's go here in the back. Now, for heavy fire and anti-tank, I have my Eradicator squad here. 3-man Eradicator squad. I sometimes take them whenever there's a lot of tanks in the army list. They're just kind of there in the back, just shooting at it. And speaking of shooting, I have my Hellblasters. These are pretty fun. If you're a gambling man, you would love the Hellblasters, because when you have Hellblasters that look this cool, you're always just going to overcharge. Fuck it, who cares? I'm going to roll a a hazard test anyway, so it's a dice game. Who cares at this point? But, and then for another shooting fellers right here, more specialized units over here. You got my squad of Sternguard veterans. Love the Sternguard vets. I love their kit. I love their the front cloth that they got all on, so which immediately makes them very Black Templarish. So I didn't really need to do a lot of kit bash. I just put some decals on it, made them a bit dirty, and they look like very grimdark shooters with a bit of kit bash. They look just as sick. And then for the final kind of battle line squad that we have before we get into the heavy hitters, I have my squad of Outrider. What are knights of the battlefield without their cavalry? And this here right here is the cavalry. You got a 3-man Outrider squad led by a chaplain on bike. I replaced his Crozius because the sword looks a bit cooler, but you can't tell me that that is not a chaplain riding on a bike. With a bit of work and a bit of dirtiness, the man looks the part. But now we get to the honored of the chapter, the big boys. These are the ones that have earned the right, I mean, all of them really, like Sternguard vets, Hellblasters, and Eradicators have at some point become Sword Brethren, but you cannot have a Black Templar army without some good Sword Brethren action. Now this is the creme de la creme of Black Templars. This is honestly the best plastic set they've ever released in terms of the elite units. It's just very drip hard. You got the capes, you got the hammers, the pyre pistols, the power swords, the axes, the stance, thunder claws as well, and then the banners that come with it as well. It took me a while to paint these boys up because I've never really gotten close to what I would call a perfect Black Templar paint scheme. But I decided that the best paint scheme would be just to follow the regular heraldry and then just make them a bit dirty because they're supposed to be elite warriors that are always crusading on the battlefield. Now, generally, these boys are paired up with Helbrecht and a Castellan, and I just throw them in a Land Raider, and then they just go to town. Now, aside from the Sword Brethren, I also have another kit that I really like. The new Terminators. Yes, Terminators. The new Termies are very bulky. I like how they feel. You got that one with the Cyclone rockets, Storm Blasters. They're also led by a Chaplain in Terminator armor. Now, this is the new 10th edition Captain in Terminator armor. But as you can see, I sawed off his sword and I gave him a Crozius that was generally on the Chaplain on bike. And now he became my Terminator, my Chaplain in Terminator armor, because the Captain is a bit too expensive. This one lost his he lost his hands in a fucking drive-by accident. The Chaos Space Marine just rolled up on him and shot him. But nothing that can be fixed, you know? Flesh is weakness, but deeds endure. He's a Secret Iron Hands successor chapter. He just sneaked into the Black Templars. Aside from that, I also have and a Black Templar list is always never without some Blade Guard veterans, baby. Blade Guard veterans, the creme de la creme. They're generally Sword Brethren, but they wield shields. That's what I call them in the lore. And they are the guardians of the Emperor's Champion. You cannot tell me that any Black Templar list would not have this boy. This boy is a mini Helbrecht. Nothing he hits will survive. He has precision, which also can pick out the enemy units. So generally I run him with a Blade Guard vet squad, throw him in an Impulsor, and just throw him at the headquarters. And he is disgusting. Nothing has survived impact. And he also has a pretty cool cape as well. I love this mini. I love the Blade Guards. With a bit of paint scheme, they look just as Black Templar as ever. But now, let us go into something more big. My Redemptor Dreadnought. I love this mini. This is one of my favorite paint schemes of all time. I forgot to dirty up the pauldrons because he's supposed to be kind of like a, an old veteran of the Long War. This man is supposed to be kicking out since the days of Sigismund. That's the lore that I have for him. He's just only brought out on special occasions because the theme of my army is that they've returned to Armageddon during the New Crusade book as well. So they got this boy out of stasis and were like, walk with us, honored brother. Speaking of big, I got my vehicles out here. These two fellas right here. Now on the right, this would be my impulsor. This is when I run small 500 to 1,000 point game. It's a pretty sick model. I got it in the box as well. But if you're looking for firepower, the propulsor. Now this thing shreds. Generally, it's missing its guns because I was painting that earlier. But this boy here, it takes in 11 units. So what I would do generally is I would throw Helbrecht with a 10-man Crusader, with a 10-man Sword Brethren squad, and it just deletes everything, because the guns on these are pretty sick too. But you cannot run a Black Templar army without the Holy Land Raider. Now this is my Land Raider. Currently now it's equipped with the bolters, the heavy bolters, which makes it a Land Raider Crusader. But if I swap it out, I could make it a Land Raider Redeemer, which is a disgusting power. But aside from that, let us display the finest of them all, the High Marshal himself, Helbrecht, the spiritual leader, the man himself. I've yet to paint the mini boys on here, but he just needs a little bit of a touch-up. But I really like this mini. It's as menacing as Black Templars can be. And this is the spiritual leader, and right beside him is the Marshal model, which basically is a Marshal. He would be always the second in command, because it'd be like a ring of Marshals with the Reclusiarch Grimaldus. And that would be it. Final scan across the battlefield. This is the entirety of the army. And if I would guess how much in the current edition, this would be about 2,700 points of Black Templars. So, thank you for watching. Appreciate the follows and appreciate the subs, and sub for more.